John McGaw and Bill Moist. We're here to talk about how to profit in today's real estate market. Bill, first, let's hear maybe a Dilbert cartoon.
You got it. So Dilbert met somebody online, and they're on their first date. And so Dilbert looks at the lady and says, "You don't look like your photos on the dating app." The lady says, "Well, your profile said you like to go to the gym, so I guess we're both huge liars." And Dilbert says, "Maybe we can build on that," which that's what online dating is, unfortunately, quite a bit. And then let's talk a little bit about IT. So Dilbert goes to the boss and says, "We had a massive data breach. Hackers got into the private data of all our customers." And the boss got his arms wide open and this who cares kind of look on his face. And he says, "No problem. We'll issue a press release that says we're sorry and it will never happen again." And then Dilbert says, "That's what we said the last 3 times it happened." And the boss says, "Our strategy is to wear them down." He's talking about his customers. And then the story continues now as Al is talking with the boss. And the boss says, "Hackers got our customer data. Write a press release saying that we're sorry and it will never happen again." And Alice says, "Is any of that true?" And the boss says, "Part of it." And Alice says, "Which part?" And the boss says, "Hackers got our customer data." That's what we feel sometimes with some of the data breaches out there.
Very good, Bill. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. You know, I studied accounting because I wanted the tools of a business. Eventually, I became a CPA and I got a Master of Science in Taxation. I worked with a lot of real estate investors and developers. And eventually, I went to work for one because I realized that's where my heart was. And he was a syndicator and developer, and he taught me the basics of real estate investing and developing. Since that time, we've built apartments, office buildings, large subdivisions, and also some light retail. And now we're developing self-storage, and we just love this industry because it really creates a lot of jobs and a lot of good places for people to go.
Very good, Bill. And this is John McGaw. I've got 30 years also in real estate and got a IT background. Me and my ex-wife were builders in the 90s, and she went on to continue to build. I bought, rehabbed, and rented quite a few homes, sold all my homes and went into commercial, did senior living and apartment complexes, joined multiple groups, Del Walmsley, Lifestyles Unlimited, Red Sumrocks Group, and now in this with Bill. And we're going to have a couple of stories here about what's going on. RVs and storage were doing well before the virus. And now, after the virus, there's a lot of people that are trying to get outside. And my first story is about a CubeSmart. My girlfriend has a storage there, and I went there to lock it up one day. And I talked to one of the sales guys and said, "Hey, how are things going with the storage?" And this storage, this CubeSmart's on 26, and I think it's Grapevine. And he says, "We are at 97%, and we have never been this high. We've never been at this capacity," and he can barely keep up. So, well, once he hits 100, I guess that'll be it, right? And then, so I went to buy a gift at Bass Pro Shop the other day. Sort of the same story. I asked the guy, "Hey, how's sales? How are things going, during the pandemic?" And he says, "We are 70% above sales from last year." So a lot of people are getting outdoors, bicycles, motorcycles, Yeti coolers, workout stuff. They're all trying to get outdoors. Now, Bill, here's a good slide that I'll let you take.
Yeah, it's interesting. The one thing I love about the real estate market is we can get inside information. And we all know the story where a business owner got some inside information. It was a small value stock for her, I think less than $100,000. And after she got prosecuted, her company lost $1 billion in value, $1 billion. But inside information in real estate is legal. So we got some inside information on our current project. We got rumors that Buc-ee's was coming in just down the street from us. And so I put it under contract. And by the time I had to close, Buc-ee's was announced. So that was incredibly important insider information. that was legal.
Yeah, and here's some of the reports now during the pandemic that about RV sales and trips outdoors. Forbes, Yahoo Financial, ABC, almost all news outlets have reported about the huge sales of RVs. Now, Thor is one of them that Yahoo interviewed the CEO of. And Thor, in that interview, they've had their best year ever, and the year's not over. The best year in 30 years of sales. And here's another story. So I'm working from Florida remotely this month, and I went to Lazy Days in Tampa. They say they're the world's largest dealer. And I stopped on a sales guy and said, "Hey, how's sales? How are things going?" He says, "We are, again, outselling. We can't even keep the inventory on the lot." I mean, these sales guys are running back and forth. So they're doing real good, and they see the same thing out here in Tampa. Now, Bill, I'm going to let you take the Wall Street Journal report here.
Yeah, what we're seeing is that people feel safe in RVs. They've always felt safe in RVs and motorhomes, but now with the threat in flights and also hotels, they're even more concerned and more inclined to rent RVs or buy them. But the company that rents RVs is saying they're getting customers, including pro athletes, celebrities, and a couple of billionaires who are renting because only 14% of the travelers feel safe taking a domestic flight, and only 17% feel safe at a hotel. Even the president was talking about he and Melania renting an RV and going on vacation.
Yeah, I don't think he couldn't remember what it was called though. That, you know, that thing that has like a home that you drive. And so again, you know, cruise ships are really struggling. People don't want to be in that floating city so close to everyone. Buses, planes, trains, RVs are the way to go now, and even vacations, you know, for the summer or any time for your family. Bill, what about working from home? What about Wi-Fi in these parks?
Yeah, you know, a good Wi-Fi is required in all RV parks. Everybody's got, you know, they have phones and other devices they use. But now the newer motorhomes and RVs also have Wi-Fi built in. Like you see the picture on the left, there's somebody working on the computer and he's looking at the beach. So he's obviously got Wi-Fi in there. So Wi-Fi is a requirement, and it's available at virtually every single RV park.
Yeah, and this is an article from Forbes and talking about some of the same thing. What are people going to do? How are they going to travel? What's the new norm? And in this article, it talks about the exposure, how little or how much you can have, you know, choose to have with someone else. Outdoorsy is a rental place that they have rented more than 40,000 unique vehicles in 4,800 cities across 14 countries. Now, Bill, I know 10 million households nationwide last year owned RVs. What about full-time RVers?
Well, they estimate there's well over 1 million households in the United States who are full-time or RVers, which means they sold their house, they rent their house out, and their new home is their RV. You know, traditionally that was retired folks that sold a big house and were in transition. They bought an RV and they traveled for a number of years. But now we have a lot of workers who are traveling. The Wi-Fi's of the world have made that much easier to conduct business on the road. We also have a large number of families who are traveling with children because they can homeschool their kids in the RV or on the park campgrounds. So RV lifestyle really is a growing trend in the United States of America.
Yes, it is. Now here's a story of another example of sales. Now, this place is the #1 motor home specialist in the world. They're in Alvarado, Texas. I called, I'd say 2 months ago, just to ask one of the sales guys, hey, how are the sales? How are things going? So I got the receptionist, and so she transferred me. It took about 7 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, and I got transferred back to her. I said, hey, I never got a sales guy. She says, well, that's because they're all busy. I said, well, I really have one question. How are your sales? She says, we're selling 20 units a day. Now, I think their average cost is around 100,000. That's incredible. They're selling that much. Now, Bill, how do RV storage and RV resorts go together?
Well, that's something we kind of discovered in our current project. We started out with just the RV storage, and then we had some extra land left over, and we decided to build an RV resort there because, that's a big family. So John might have his RV stored out here, and he's got some friends coming in from Illinois, and they said, a good place to stay? Well, yeah, there's an RV resort right next door to where I keep my RV. So, and they talk amongst themselves. So we really feel that these are the opposite side of the same coin.
Yeah. Now, what about the capacity, and are both of these full?
Yeah, they're both full in North Texas and really in most places in the country. You got to plan ahead to get a spot at an RV park. One of our investors did a research. He called 65 RV parks and resorts in the North Texas area. And out of that, there were some 26 that never returned the call. And so he did some inquiring and found out the reason they don't return the call is they're full and they have a waiting list. What a great business model, huh? You only you only get on the phone when you need to go ahead and get somebody to come in.
Right. Now I read this article recently on Bigger Pockets, the most recession-proof real estate niches. In this article, it talked about self-storage and mobile home park recession-proof niches, because in good times, people are storing the stuff they don't want to put in their garage or in their house. In bad times, they need the storage to, put it in while they transition to other things. Mobile home parks and RV parks are very similar. So that's a good niche. Now, here's another story. Two friends of mine that own storage, Doug Taft in March told me that he had his best month and the best month for units rented. Lydia Wong also told me that in April, she had 100% of her renters paid, and all the large units were rented out. Talk about amazing, right, Bill? Now, you got a similar story for your Wylie boat and RV storage for June. Tell us a little bit about that.
You bet, John. Well, June was the official beginning of the recession. But in June, we raised the rent on 75 tenants, a grand total of $10,000 a year, which maybe not seem like a lot, but at a 6% cap rate, that's $60,000. So by putting these rent increases in place, we've increased the value of our property by $60,000. For June, we had 9 move-ins and 5 move-outs, 4-unit increase. We're now at 95% occupancy. Net increase for the year were 17. So we've increased our total occupancy by 17 units this year.
Very nice, very nice. Now, what about evictions? Is it landlord friendly for storage?
Yeah, unlike other real estate, we don't have to go to the courthouse if we have a problem. What happens is sometimes somebody passes away or somebody moves out of state, or maybe it's a business property and there's a new bookkeeper that doesn't pay. And so we try to contact the owner and have them come get their things out. But if we can't do that, then there's a firm that we'll hire that will do an auction and clean the site out, or clean the unit out, so we can then release it. We want to get it back to revenue generating as soon as possible.
Very nice. Now, here's a little story I got from owning some single family, and it applies to other investments as well. When someone would move out of one of my houses, it was always, I'd have to repaint a lot of times, and a lot of times I'd have to replace the carpet or the flooring. What about RV resorts and storage? What do you have to do when somebody leaves?
Well, like you said here in the slide, John, when someone leaves an RV storage unit, we just have to sweep it out. Typically, there's really nothing in there to damage or break. With the RV parks, there's really no maintenance other than dumping the trash in the trash bins. But there's no there's no make ready. There can be one person moving out, another person moving in that very same day.
That's what I love about them. Yeah, Bill, I'm going to let you take this slide. Tell us what kind of growth can we expect, or what have you seen in reports?
Well, you know, for many, many years, storage was a mom and pop business, but a lot of people started discovering, a lot of major investment funds discovered that the most profitable commercial real estate was self-storage. So in 2019, we did the value of all self-storage is about 87 billion. By 2025, is expected to grow to 115 billion, which is a 134% increase in 5 years. So we're in a good market right now. It's continue to expect it to grow going forward.
Yeah. Now, Bill, what's it take to put one of these together?
Well, you can see the plans here. We've got architectural and engineering plans that have been submitted to the city. There's also a book of specifications, and it takes that paperwork and about $200,000 to develop an RV storage and resort.
Yeah, great. Well, in good times and bad, RVs and storage are great to own. This is John McGaugh and Bill Moist. Thanks everyone for joining, and have a great day.